The planet Zythera stretched under skies of shifting colors, where auroras painted the clouds in green and violet streaks. Its cities rose like giant crystals from the ground, glittering in the sunlight. The air was thin but breathable, carrying the faint scent of alien flora that shimmered with bioluminescent light at night. In the heart of this world stood the palace of the alien queen, Lysara, a structure both grand and intricate, made from materials humans had never seen before. Its towers spiraled into the sky, and its halls echoed with whispers of power and diplomacy. Human Captain Elias Kane stepped through the main gates, his boots crunching on the crystalline floors. He was not like the alien guards who patrolled the palace. He was taller, stronger in a way that did not come naturally to the Zytherans, and his presence carried a confidence born from Earth's rigorous military training. Sent as part of a human Zytheran peace mission, Elias had a dual purpose: to protect and to learn. He had observed Zythera for months, noting their customs, language, and the subtle patterns of their society. But even with his knowledge, there was something about the palace that made his senses alert. Inside, the palace was alive with movement. Alien courtiers, with elongated limbs and iridescent skin, floated across the halls, speaking in soft, musical tones that humans struggled to comprehend fully. Guards with segmented armor lined the corridors, their eyes scanning constantly for threats. And in the center of it all was Queen Lysara, whose presence was impossible to ignore. She moved with an elegance that seemed effortless, her eyes sharp and observant. Yet there was kindness in her voice when she spoke to her people. Elias watched from a distance as Lysara conducted her morning audience. Ambassadors and nobles presented reports and requests, all bowing to her authority. The queen listened carefully, nodding or offering advice with a grace that demanded respect. But Elias noticed something subtle. In the corner of the room, Prince Varkon, her husband, watched with a quiet intensity. Unlike the queen, his charm did not come naturally. His smile was practiced, his posture perfect, but there was an edge to his gaze. Something calculating. Elias had felt it before, a sense that Varkon's loyalty to the queen might be more complex than it appeared. Days passed in a blur of observation for Elias. He learned the rhythms of palace life, noting which guards were loyal and which ones could be swayed. He studied the council meetings, listening to debates that shaped the future of Zythera. Slowly, a pattern began to emerge. Decisions that should have benefited the planet were being subtly influenced by Varkon. He introduced minor changes, each one seeming harmless, but together they hinted at a larger plan. Elias did not act hastily. He had learned long ago that in diplomacy, patience was as valuable as strength. Instead, he began to quietly observe the prince, noting meetings in private chambers, listening to hushed conversations in the halls, and tracking who received Varkon's attention. His human instincts told him something dangerous was brewing, but he had no proof yet. Meanwhile, Lysara grew fond of the human captain. She admired his discipline, his calm presence among beings who could sense intentions without words. She often asked him to assist in minor security matters, curious to see how he thought differently from her own people. Elias would suggest strategies, often based on logic or unpredictability methods the Zytherans rarely considered. She noticed how even small suggestions prevented misunderstandings or conflicts from escalating. Unknowingly, she was beginning to trust him more than anyone else in her court. One evening, as the twin moons of Zythera bathed the palace in silver light, Elias wandered near the outer gardens. These gardens were unlike any on Earth. Plants moved gently as if sensing his presence. Flowers glowed softly, and streams of clear water reflected the moons above. But his mind was not on the beauty of the scene. He had noticed something earlier that day. Varkon meeting with a group of cloaked figures in a secluded courtyard. Their discussion had been quiet, almost invisible to any casual observer. But Elias's trained senses picked up the tension, the urgency in their movements. He followed subtle clues over the next days, whispered messages hidden in seemingly ordinary scrolls, changes in guard rotations, and unexplained disappearances of palace staff for short periods. Each small detail painted a picture of conspiracy. Elias realized that if Varkon succeeded, the consequences could be disastrous, not just for Lysara, but for all of Zythera. The prince had allies beyond the palace, rogue factions waiting for the right moment to strike. The queen, unaware of the threat, continued her duties with grace. She held meetings with foreign dignitaries, settled disputes among citizens, and personally inspected portions of the palace where the humans and aliens worked together. Her presence was inspiring. Elias could see why she was beloved, not only for her intelligence but for her fairness and courage. He knew that if anyone could survive a political threat, it would be her. But only if the danger was revealed in time. During a formal dinner in the Grand Hall, the tension of the palace became more apparent. Varkon smiled and charmed the attendees with stories of past conquests and alliances, yet Elias observed how his words subtly undermined the queen's policies, planting seeds of doubt. One of Varkon's aides tried to push a proposal that would reduce the queen's influence over the council. Before anyone could notice, Elias discreetly suggested a counterpoint to Lysara, framing it as an alternative approach that seemed natural to her reasoning. She accepted it without suspicion, yet it prevented a minor disaster from taking root. After the dinner, Elias returned to his quarters to plan. He had decided that passive observation was no longer enough. He needed to find a way to gather evidence without drawing attention, to understand the full scope of Varkon's intentions. His training on Earth had taught him the value of subtlety, deception for protection, and patience in strategy. He began mapping the palace's secret passages, noting where guards rarely patrolled, and learning the habits of those who reported directly to Varkon. The queen, meanwhile, spent her night in meditation, reflecting on the delicate balance of leadership. She had begun to sense a faint ripple of unease within the palace, though she could not name its source. Human and alien guards alike felt it too. The world outside was calm, but inside, small currents of ambition and betrayal were moving like hidden rivers. Lysara trusted in her people's loyalty, unaware that one of the closest to her, the one she had called a friend and confidant, her husband harbored dangerous intentions. Elias spent days blending in, earning the trust of palace staff, quietly exchanging information and observing patterns. He noted that while the Zytherans were physically superior, humans often had an advantage in unpredictability. Decisions based on logic rather than ritual gave him a subtle edge. Each new observation confirmed his growing suspicion. Varkon was planning something that would harm the queen and destabilize Zythera. But proving it required more than intuition. It required evidence and timing. One morning, the palace was buzzing with preparations for the Festival of Light, a celebration honoring the queen and the planet's history. Aliens from distant regions gathered, bringing gifts and sharing stories. The queen moved among them gracefully, unaware of the danger lurking close by. Elias noticed Varkon speaking in private with two unknown delegates, their conversation curt and urgent. Though Elias could not hear the words, the body language, the tense postures, the rapid glances spoke volumes. Something was coming, and it would happen soon. That evening, Elias found himself on a balcony overlooking the city. The lights below shimmered like stars, but he was not thinking about beauty. His mind raced with plans and contingencies. He had no doubt that Varkon's ambition would push him to act, and that innocent lives could be at risk. He made a silent vow. He would protect the queen, not for reward, but because he knew humanity could rise to meet challenges in ways others could not imagine. His skills, courage, and determination would be tested, and he was ready to face whatever came next. Unknown to both Elias and the queen, Varkon had already begun laying the groundwork for his plan. Secret messages, hidden weapons, and alliances with rogue factions were moving into place. The palace that had seemed so safe was now a stage for intrigue and treachery. The humans might have strength and cunning, the aliens might have technology and power, but only careful planning and courage could prevent catastrophe. And so, as the auroras danced across Zythera's sky, Elias Kane prepared for a challenge unlike any he had faced. One that would test not only his abilities but also the trust between human and alien, and the very fate of a planet. The days following the Festival of Light were busy, yet tense. The palace seemed outwardly peaceful, but Elias could sense the undercurrents of unease. He moved through the corridors with purpose, observing, listening, and noting every unusual action. He had learned the palace's rhythms, which doors were locked at certain times, which guards stayed alert, and which aides whispered in corners. Every detail mattered. Queen Lysara continued her duties with grace. She met with council members, guided debates, and listened carefully to the concerns of her people. Her trust in the palace staff was complete, and she believed her husband, Prince Varkon, to be loyal. Varkon's charm had convinced many that he was a devoted partner and capable advisor. Yet Elias knew better. The subtle shifts in Varkon's attention, the strange meetings behind closed doors, and the odd messages delivered under the cover of darkness were all pieces of a dangerous puzzle. Elias decided it was time to act cautiously. He needed allies within the palace, those who could be trusted to maintain loyalty to the queen. Slowly, he began speaking to select guards and aides in quiet corners, testing their reactions. A few responded with cautious agreement, showing that their loyalty was to Lysara, not her husband. This small network of loyalists became Elias's eyes and ears, giving him information he could not access alone. One night, as Elias patrolled the outer corridors, he noticed a shadow moving in the palace's lesser-used wing. He followed it silently, moving with careful precision. Around a corner, he saw two figures meeting in secret. One was Varkon, and the other a Zytheran diplomat Elias had not seen before. Their voices were low, filled with urgency. Though Elias could not understand their exact words, their body language told him enough. They gestured toward the queen's chambers, then to a small device they carried, and finally to a distant storage area. There was a plan being made. Something dangerous. Elias retreated without being seen, his mind racing. He needed to warn the queen without revealing his hand too soon. Human intuition told him that exposure could lead to immediate retaliation, and the palace would erupt in chaos before he could stop it. He began formulating a strategy. Small, calculated actions to prevent disaster, while collecting proof of Varkon's intentions. The next morning, the queen summoned Elias to her chambers. She had questions about palace security and seemed unusually curious about his observations. "Captain Kane," she said, "I have noticed subtle changes in our routines. Nothing alarming, but enough to make me cautious. I value your perspective. Tell me, do you see anything I might have missed?" Elias bowed slightly and spoke carefully. "Your Majesty, there are always small risks in any court, especially one with so many ambitious minds. I have noticed a few unusual patterns, meetings that happen in secret, deliveries that bypass normal channels. Nothing confirmed, but it could be worth monitoring." Lysara nodded thoughtfully. "Keep observing, Elias. I trust your judgment. The safety of this palace and the people within it is paramount. Let me know if anything requires immediate action." Elias left, his mind racing. The queen's trust was both an opportunity and a responsibility. He began coordinating with his small network of loyal aides and guards, sharing observations in coded messages and subtle signals. They learned to leave notes hidden in routine places, pass information using gestures and signals, and subtly redirect palace operations without alerting Varkon. Meanwhile, Varkon's plan continued to develop. He met with his co-conspirators frequently, issuing orders for minor disruptions that would eventually weaken the queen's influence. A supply of hidden weapons was moved into storage rooms, strange devices were tested in quiet hallways, and alliances with rogue factions outside the palace were strengthened. Varkon's ambition was precise, his patience formidable, and his ruthlessness growing. Elias knew that the queen's awareness was limited. She could sense tension, but did not know its source. If Varkon's plan succeeded, it could lead to her capture, or worse. He decided that subtle sabotage would be necessary, small disruptions that delayed Varkon's progress without revealing the human intervention. He began creating diversions, redirecting supplies, subtly changing patrol routes, and ensuring loyal guards were in positions where they could prevent emergencies. Each action required precision and patience. Days passed with quiet tension. The palace operated normally on the surface, but underneath, a silent battle of strategy was unfolding. Elias observed Varkon's every move, noting that the prince's temper was growing. He was becoming more reckless, pushing his allies to act faster than they could manage. This impatience would soon create opportunities, Elias hoped. One evening, Elias discovered a secret passage leading from the lower storage chambers to the queen's private wing. It had been hidden for centuries, and only a few in the palace knew of its existence. Following the path, he carefully mapped it, realizing it could be a critical point of access in Varkon's plan. If Varkon intended harm, this passage might be the route he would use. Elias committed every detail to memory, planning ways to secure the area without raising suspicion. During another council meeting, Varkon subtly undermined the queen by questioning her policies. "Your Majesty," he said with a practiced smile, "perhaps the council should consider alternative strategies. There may be more efficient methods to handle these matters." His words were smooth, but Elias noticed the tension in the room. Some council members began to waver, unsure whether to follow the queen or her husband. Elias quickly intervened, suggesting a plan that seemed like a minor adjustment to the queen's existing policies. It was simple, logical, and effective, and the council accepted it without hesitation. Varkon's attempt to manipulate the group failed, leaving him frustrated but outwardly composed. The humans' small intervention had preserved stability, though no one could see the full extent of the invisible battle being waged. As the weeks went on, Elias grew closer to the queen. Not in friendship or familiarity, but in mutual respect. She began to notice his careful observations and the way he anticipated problems before they arose. Though she did not yet know the full extent of Varkon's schemes, she found comfort in the human's calm judgment and quick thinking. Elias, for his part, admired her wisdom, courage, and dedication to her people. One night, while walking through the quiet gardens, Elias noticed Varkon moving toward the secret passage he had discovered. Elias held his breath, heart racing. This could be the moment when the prince attempted the first step of his plan. Moving with careful speed, Elias positioned himself to observe without being seen. Varkon paused, spoke to someone hidden in the shadows, and gestured toward the queen's chambers. Elias noted everything: the route, the timing, the gestures, and the unknown accomplices. He retreated, carefully avoiding detection, and began planning the next phase. If Varkon acted soon, Elias would need to intervene directly. But for now, patience and preparation were more valuable than confrontation. The human mind, he realized, could anticipate patterns and motives in ways even the most intelligent aliens could not. The palace itself seemed to sense the tension. Guards became more alert. Aides whispered quietly in corridors, and the air carried a subtle sense of unease. Yet to the queen, life continued with routine and ceremony. Elias felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Every small action, every intervention, could be the difference between safety and disaster. He spent hours each night analyzing Varkon's movements, cross-referencing with palace routines, and predicting where and when the prince might strike next. Each prediction was tested with small, controlled adjustments. Changing a guard rotation, leaving a subtle warning, or redirecting a minor delivery. Each success strengthened Elias's confidence that he could protect the queen while maintaining secrecy. Finally, a pattern emerged. Varkon was preparing for a larger move, a public display where the queen would be vulnerable. The timing coincided with the upcoming solar convergence, a ceremony where all of Zythera would witness the queen's leadership. Elias realized that this event could be the stage for the prince's ultimate betrayal. The stakes were higher than ever, and failure was not an option. Elias gathered his network of loyalists, outlining a plan that balanced patience, observation, and subtle intervention. They would monitor Varkon's movements, report unusual activity, and be ready to act if the prince made a move against the queen. The humans' ingenuity, combined with the loyalty of a few brave aliens, created a shield around Lysara without alerting Varkan. As the day of the solar convergence approached, Elias knew the palace would be a battleground of wits. The queen remained unaware of the full danger, trusting in her people, and, unknowingly, in him. Elias's mind was sharp, his body ready, and his resolve unwavering. Humanity's strengths, adaptability, courage, and intelligence would be put to the test, and so, Elias Kane prepared for the coming storm, knowing that the fate of Zethra and its queen rested on his vigilance. He had become more than an observer. He was now a guardian in the shadows, a human standing between ambition and justice, ready to prove that sometimes courage and cleverness could outmatch even the most cunning of rulers. The days leading to the solar convergence were filled with preparation and tension. The palace hummed with activity as courtiers, guards, and foreign visitors prepared for the grand event. The crystal hall, where the ceremony would take place, was polished to perfection, its walls reflecting the soft glow of the twin moons. The floors sparkled like liquid silver, and hanging lights created shifting patterns across the walls. To the untrained eye, it was beauty without flaw, but to Elias Kane, it was a stage for danger. Varkan had grown increasingly impatient. His earlier attempts to subtly undermine the queen had failed, and he sensed that someone within the palace was thwarting his plans. He did not yet know it was a human, relying instead on careful observation and deception. The prince doubled his efforts, giving orders in hushed tones to rogue factions and sending secret messages to allies who would help him seize control during the ceremony. Each move was calculated, but Elias's careful interventions had forced him into small, rushed decisions. Elias spent the mornings moving through the palace quietly, checking guard positions, noting shifts in patrol patterns, and ensuring that loyal aides were in key locations. The human captain had become adept at predicting the prince's actions, understanding that impatience often led to mistakes. Using small diversions, he delayed the delivery of suspicious packages, subtly redirected couriers, and even adjusted the positioning of certain objects in corridors so that Varkan's plans would be disrupted without raising suspicion. The queen, unaware of the full extent of the threat, continued her preparations. She met with council members, practiced her ceremonial speech, and reviewed the sequence of the event with meticulous care. She began to notice minor issues, unexplained delays in delivery, or unusual behavior from certain staff, but attributed them to the natural chaos of a large ceremony. Her trust in her guards and advisors remained strong, and she found comfort in the calm, dependable presence of Elias. One afternoon, Elias discovered that Varkan had hidden a device capable of disrupting communication during the ceremony. If activated, it could create confusion and panic, allowing the prince and his allies to manipulate the crowd and overpower the queen's supporters. Elias carefully studied the device's location and mechanism, realizing that a direct confrontation could reveal his hand. Instead, he devised a plan to neutralize it discreetly. Using a combination of human intuition and mechanical skill, he engineered a subtle interference that would render the device harmless at the critical moment. As the day of the solar convergence approached, the palace was filled with excitement and anticipation. Delegates from across Zethra and nearby worlds had arrived, bringing gifts, messages of allegiance, and expressions of goodwill. The crystal hall was filled with light, music, and the scent of exotic flora. But beneath the celebration, a quiet tension gripped the palace. Elias moved through the crowds, alert for any signs of unusual activity. He could feel Varkan's presence. Even from a distance, a calculated energy of impatience, ambition, and danger. In the hours before the ceremony, Elias coordinated with his network of loyal aides. Small signals and gestures communicated plans without words. Guards were subtly repositioned, passageways were secured, and loyal staff were instructed to monitor any unexpected movements. Elias knew that the prince's impatience might lead him to act prematurely, and he prepared for every possible scenario. Meanwhile, Varkan made his final preparations. He had grown frustrated with delays and relied increasingly on his allies to move quickly. The rogue factions he had recruited were ready to act, but they were inexperienced and nervous. One misstep could expose the plot, and Elias was counting on it. The prince remained confident, believing that his charm and cunning would allow him to succeed where subtlety had failed. As the ceremony began, the crystal hall shimmered with light and sound. The queen entered, her presence commanding attention. Her voice was calm and steady as she addressed the assembly, speaking of unity, progress, and the strength of their civilization. Delegates listened intently, some taking notes, others nodding in agreement. To the audience, the event appeared flawless, yet Elias observed every detail: the positioning of guards, the movements of staff, and the subtle signals of Varkon's co-conspirators. Varkon waited for the perfect moment. He intended to activate the device that would disrupt the communication network, creating confusion and allowing him to assert control. He gave a discreet signal to his allies, but one of them hesitated, distracted by a loyal aide positioned by Elias. The slight delay caused Varkon's plan to falter. Elias had anticipated this possibility and was prepared to act. In a calculated move, Elias subtly redirected the device, ensuring it could not function as intended. The prince's allies were confused, their timing disrupted, and Varkon's frustration grew. He tried to adapt, issuing hurried commands and attempting to regain control. But Elias's preparations had created a web of obstacles too precise to overcome quickly. The queen, sensing a minor disturbance, paused briefly, scanning the hall with calm authority. She noticed nothing alarming to the untrained eye, but her instincts told her that someone was attempting to manipulate the event. Elias stood nearby, ready to intervene if necessary, but confident that the loyal staff and guards could handle minor disruptions. As the ceremony continued, Varkon realized that subtlety would no longer serve him. He attempted a bold move, signaling his allies to act openly. Chaos began to ripple through the crowd as some conspirators attempted to seize control. Guards loyal to the queen reacted immediately, containing the rogue faction before harm could occur. The sudden movement drew attention, and the audience began to murmur in surprise. Elias moved with precision, guiding loyal guards to key positions and neutralizing potential threats without causing panic. His human training, combined with careful observation, allowed him to anticipate Varkon's actions and counter them effectively. One by one, the rogue elements were contained, their plan collapsing under the pressure of careful strategy and discipline. Varkon, seeing his plan fail, became desperate. He attempted to confront the queen directly, hoping to intimidate her into compliance. Elias intercepted him, positioning himself between the prince and the queen. Using a combination of strength, timing, and strategy, Elias prevented Varkon from reaching Lysara while ensuring that the confrontation remained controlled. The human's presence alone was enough to disrupt the prince's aggression, showcasing the unique advantage of human courage and ingenuity. The queen, observing the unfolding situation, remained composed. She spoke firmly, asserting her authority and calming the assembly. Her words carried weight, and the audience responded with loyalty and support. The rogue factions, realizing their plan had failed, were apprehended by the loyal guards. Varkon, isolated and powerless, had no choice but to retreat. Elias escorted the prince to a secure location, ensuring that he could not disrupt the ceremony further. Varkon's allies were questioned and contained, their ambitions thwarted. The queen's presence remained unshaken, her authority reinforced by the display of loyalty, courage, and strategic action. After the ceremony, Lysara approached Elias. "Captain Kane," she said, her voice calm but filled with respect. "You have shown wisdom and bravery beyond what I could have expected. Today, you have saved more than a ceremony. You have preserved the peace and stability of this palace and our people." Elias bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, it was not my plan alone. The loyalty and courage of your guards and staff were essential. I only acted to support their efforts and ensure the safety of everyone present." The queen smiled, a mixture of gratitude and admiration in her expression. "You have shown the strengths of humanity in ways that our civilization rarely sees. Your courage, foresight, and intelligence have proven invaluable. I am grateful that you stand among us." In the following days, the palace returned to routine, but the events of the solar convergence left a lasting impression. Varkon's ambitions had been revealed, and his influence diminished. Loyal aides and guards were recognized for their vigilance, and the queen implemented additional measures to strengthen her court. Elias continued to serve quietly, observing and preparing, knowing that vigilance would always be necessary in a palace filled with ambition. Elias also began to notice subtle changes in the queen's demeanor. She was more confident in her decisions, more attentive to potential threats, and more open to considering advice from outsiders. Her trust in him had grown, not as a human or a foreigner, but as a skilled strategist and loyal protector. The bond of respect between them strengthened, built on shared purpose and the successful navigation of danger. Varkon, meanwhile, retreated to consider his next move. Though his initial plan had failed, his ambition remained. Elias anticipated that the prince would attempt another scheme, but he also knew that human ingenuity, combined with careful observation and decisive action, could continue to protect the queen and the palace. The events of the solar convergence had demonstrated the unique strengths that humans could bring to interstellar challenges: courage, adaptability, and an ability to think beyond convention. As the palace returned to normal activity, Elias reflected on the lessons of the past days. Every small observation, every calculated intervention, had contributed to success. The queen remained safe, her authority intact, and the rogue factions neutralized. Humanity had shown that even in an alien world, careful planning, courage, and strategic thinking could make a difference. The stage was set for future challenges. Varkon's ambition would not fade easily, and Elias knew that vigilance would always be required. Yet the success of the solar convergence had strengthened the queen's rule, solidified loyalty among her allies, and demonstrated the power of careful strategy combined with human ingenuity. Elias was ready to face whatever came next, confident that courage, intelligence, and unwavering commitment could overcome even the most cunning schemes. The day of reckoning had arrived. The palace of Queen Lysara buzzed with activity. But this time, the tension was palpable. The events of the solar convergence had exposed Varkon's ambitions, and though his previous plans had failed, Elias Kane knew the prince's cunning had not diminished. Varkon had retreated, but he had not given up. He was planning his final move, and it would be bold, public, and dangerous. The Crystal Hall, which had witnessed the near disaster, was once again the focal point of the palace, prepared for a council meeting of the highest order, where the queen would address her people and allies. Elias moved quietly through the palace corridors, observing, listening, and coordinating with the network of loyal aides and guards he had cultivated over weeks. Every detail mattered. Every unusual sound, every minor change in routine could signal the beginning of Varkon's plan. The human captain understood that vigilance, timing, and precision were now more important than ever. Varkon's desperation had grown. Knowing that his schemes had been foiled in the past, he resolved that subtlety would no longer serve him. His plan this time relied on direct action during the council meeting, when the eyes of delegates, citizens, and dignitaries would all be focused on the queen. The prince's goal was to create confusion and seize control before loyal forces could react. He had prepared a contingent of rogue guards, ready to act at his signal. Elias, anticipating this, had studied every route of entry, every possible gathering spot for Varkon and his allies, and every location where the queen could be vulnerable. Using his human ingenuity, he devised a multi-layered strategy that relied not only on observation but also on calculated distractions, precise timing, and the coordination of loyal palace forces. Every move had been rehearsed mentally, every contingency considered. As the council meeting began, the crystal hall shimmered with light and sound. Delegates from across Zethera and nearby worlds were present, their eyes reflecting the crystalline walls. The queen entered, commanding attention with her calm, confident presence. Her voice, steady and clear, addressed the assembly, speaking of unity, justice, and progress. She appeared serene, but Elias knew she sensed the lingering threat of her husband's ambition. Varkon watched from a hidden gallery above the hall. His rogue allies were positioned strategically throughout the chamber, ready to act. At a precise moment, he would trigger a distraction, allowing them to advance and isolate the queen. His plan was audacious, but desperation fueled his confidence. He underestimated, however, the careful preparation that Elias had undertaken. The moment came. A signal from Varkon's position initiated movement among the rogue guards. They advanced toward key areas, intending to seize control and create chaos. Elias had anticipated the timing. With subtle gestures and pre-arranged signals, he directed loyal guards to intercept the intruders, without alarming the rest of the assembly. Human precision and strategy turned the tide instantly. The rogue factions were slowed, delayed, and contained in small pockets before they could reach their objectives. Varkon's frustration grew. He attempted to move directly toward the queen, hoping to intimidate her into submission. Elias intercepted him, standing between the prince and the queen with unwavering determination. Using a combination of human strength, timing, and calculated positioning, Elias blocked every advance, forcing Varkon to retreat again. The human's calm confidence unsettled the prince. In Elias, Varkon faced an opponent unlike any he had encountered, one who anticipated, adapted, and acted decisively under pressure. The queen, aware of the unfolding confrontation, remained composed. She addressed the assembly, her words clear and authoritative, even as subtle movements indicated the minor disturbances caused by the rogue guards. Her presence inspired loyalty and courage in those around her. Delegates, citizens, and guards alike responded instinctively. Their actions coordinated with Elias's subtle guidance. Together, human ingenuity and alien discipline formed a barrier no rogue faction could penetrate. Varkon's plan was unraveling. One by one, his allies were intercepted, neutralized, and detained. The chaos he had hoped to create dissolved into a display of order, courage, and skill. Elias moved among the guards, providing silent signals, redirecting efforts, and ensuring that every potential threat was countered. The human mind, combined with careful observation and strategic thinking, proved superior in anticipating and overcoming Varkon's aggression. The prince, realizing his failure, attempted a desperate maneuver. He sought to manipulate the crowd directly, hoping to create panic and confusion. Elias anticipated this, positioning himself and loyal guards to contain the situation. Varkon's actions became increasingly reckless, exposing him further. Each mistake brought him closer to defeat, and Elias's interventions ensured that none of the chaos could harm the queen or the assembly. Finally, Varkon was confronted directly. Elias moved swiftly, blocking all avenues of escape and action. The prince's rogue allies had been contained, leaving him isolated. The queen, standing tall and unflinching, addressed her husband with authority and clarity. Varkon, your ambition has blinded you to loyalty, justice, and the welfare of our people. Your schemes end here. The prince, frustrated and cornered, had no choice but to yield. Elias ensured that he was securely restrained and removed from the council chamber. Varkon's allies were questioned, their plans exposed, and their ambitions dismantled. The threat to the queen, the palace, and the people of Zythera had been neutralized, thanks to careful strategy, courage, and the human capacity to act decisively under pressure. The assembly, witnessing the events, was awed by the display of leadership and coordination. The queen's calm authority, combined with Elias's interventions, demonstrated the power of vigilance, strategy, and loyalty. The citizens and delegates recognized that the stability of their civilization had been preserved not by chance, but by deliberate, intelligent action. After the confrontation, the queen approached Elias. "Captain Kane," she said, her voice filled with respect and gratitude. "Your courage, intelligence, and foresight have saved not only my life but the integrity of our people. You have proven that humanity possesses qualities that even the most advanced civilizations value highly. You have my deepest thanks." Elias bowed respectfully. Your Majesty, I acted only to protect you and the people of Zythera. It was your leadership and the loyalty of your guards that made success possible. I am honored to serve in your defense." The queen smiled, a mixture of admiration and relief on her face. "You have shown us that courage, intelligence, and loyalty know no species. Your actions today will be remembered, and your presence among us will forever be valued." In the days that followed, the palace returned to routine, but the events of the confrontation left a lasting impression. Varkon's influence was removed, and his ambitions thwarted. The queen implemented new security measures, strengthened her alliances, and recognized the value of human ingenuity in maintaining order and justice. Elias continued to serve, quietly observing and ensuring that the palace remained secure. His presence was no longer simply tolerated. It was respected and valued as an integral part of the queen's success. The citizens of Zythera spoke of the day when ambition was thwarted, not through brute strength, but through careful planning, courage, and the clever application of knowledge. Elias's role remained largely unseen to most, yet those who knew the truth understood the significance of humanity's contribution. His actions had not only saved the queen, but had demonstrated the potential of humans to make a difference on an interstellar stage. The queen, having regained full control of her court, reflected on the lessons of the past weeks. She had learned that even in a civilization advanced beyond human technology, intelligence, foresight, and courage could not be underestimated. Elias had proven that humanity's strengths, adaptability, strategic thinking, and moral clarity were invaluable. She began to consider humans not merely as visitors or allies, but as partners capable of influencing the course of her people's future. Varkon, exiled from the palace, contemplated his failures. Though he had underestimated human ingenuity, his ambition had not been extinguished. He had learned, however, that courage and intelligence, when combined with loyalty and strategy, could counter even the most carefully laid plans. His exile became a cautionary tale within the palace, a reminder that recklessness and betrayal could never overcome vigilance and dedication. Elias, standing on a balcony overlooking the city of Zythera, reflected on the events that had unfolded. The twin moons cast silver light across the crystalline structures, and the streets below were filled with citizens going about their daily lives. Humanity had proven that courage, intelligence, and careful strategy could make a difference, even in an alien world. He felt a quiet pride, knowing that he had acted not for glory, but for the protection of life, justice, and order. The queen approached him quietly, her presence calm and serene. "You have shown us the value of human insight," she said. "Your courage and foresight have strengthened our civilization. I trust that we will continue to face challenges together, as allies and friends." Elias nodded. "Your Majesty, it is an honor to serve. Humanity has much to learn, but we also have strengths that can contribute to the greater good. I will continue to protect and support you, for the sake of Zythera and its people." The queen smiled, her trust in him evident. The bond formed between human and alien was now strengthened by shared experience, mutual respect, and a recognition of each other's strengths. The events of Varkon's plot had not only saved the palace and the people, but had established a new foundation for cooperation and understanding between species. As the night settled over Zythera, the palace lights reflected in the crystalline towers like stars in the sky. Elias knew that vigilance would always be necessary, but he also knew that humanity had proven its place among the stars. Courage, intelligence, and unwavering commitment had turned the tide against betrayal and ambition. The queen's rule remained strong, the palace secure, and the citizens reassured. Humanity had shown that sometimes the smallest, cleverest, and bravest could change the course of history, even on an alien world. And so, Elias Kane remained vigilant, ready for whatever challenges the future might bring. His role as protector, strategist, and human ambassador had earned him respect and trust. The story of the alien queen, the cunning prince, and the human captain would be remembered not as a tale of conflict, but as a testament to the power of courage, intelligence, and the enduring strength of humanity among the stars.